Hi everyone, this is Mr. Robotic Warfare, and yet another different game for this channel, but I have gotten absolutely hooked to this game. This game is called Dyson Sphere Program, and it just released on Steam into early access, and it's kind of a mix between Factorio and Satisfactory, but it's got its own distinct charm to it, and I gotta tell you, I love the hell out of it so far. I've been playing pretty much non-stop for a while, and I wanted to show off something new that I think could be really helpful to those of you who are trying to get started. So as you can see, I've got a really nicely organized base here, mostly a holdover from the fact that I'm a Factorio player. But you can see here that I've got my smelting array, a little bit of power gen. I'm on a tidally locked planet right now, which means that I can get pretty much permanent solar gen, and if we jump into the map screen here, you'll see that I actually have a solar energy ratio of almost 120%, which means that solar is really effective on this planet. So that's how I'm currently powering this. Note that this is not my home planet. This is the second planet that I am building a factory on. My first planet was really just to sort of get my bearings for the game. But here we are, and I wanted to show off specifically this main bus design that I've come up with, because I found a trick. I'm fairly sure it's a bug with the game as of the date of recording, but I found a trick that actually lets you make a main bus like this with only a one gap spacing, and I'll show you what I mean here. So the contention is with these splitters, and the issue with the splitters is that they're very useful, but they are kind of hard to work with compared to what you might be used to in Factorio. So the basic configuration is like this. It's 4 ways, and it's very useful, and there are 2 other configurations, one of them that goes vertical like this, and the other one that is also vertical but kind of switches between the two. So these are the the 3 splitter topologies that we've got available to us. Now, the issue is that you can't really place these next to each other. You see, the closest that you can place them is gapped by 2. So if I grab some belts here, you'll see that if I place these down, I have essentially a 2-tile gap in between here. Now, if you look at my bus, you'll see that I've actually got them closer than this. And the way that I did this is by, like I said, basically exploiting a bug, I think is what it is. So if you have the vertical version and you try and place them down next to each other, you're not going to be able to do that. You're still tied to that 2-gap spacing. However, if you place more than one at the same time, the ghost entities have a smaller hitbox for whatever reason than the entity once it's built. So if I go ahead and click a ton of these in a row here, you can see that I'm able to continuously build them right next to each other, as long as the operation to build them, essentially as long as the ghost entity is pasted before any of the machines actually get pasted themselves. So now you see that I've got a nice row of these right next to each other. And based on this principle, I designed a main bus topology that kind of utilizes that fact. So what you actually see here is that I've got on this main bus 2 belts of iron, 2 belts of copper, a belt of magnets, and then this is going to be a belt of glass here. I have yet to tap into that stone vein right there because I'm lazy. But basically what I also did is I designed a primitive bus tap system using 2 splitters next to each other. And the way that this works basically is that you're able to really nicely linearize this in terms of the way that this works. So let's just go over the first tap here, the one that's making iron. Basically what I do is I've got all of the busing done below the main bus. So the main bus is on the second belt layer, which you can see is really nice and it curves, which is one of the things that I love about this game. But also you can see that it's really convenient because I don't actually have to use the mechanic of sloped belts anywhere, which personally I think they're kind of buggy right now. They're all kinds of weird. But this allows you to avoid that, and it's also really convenient because then you can just grab the split off of the bottom and then essentially send the products right back to the outside, slipping right underneath the bus, and then you can just want to use one of these to get it directly back on top. And if you have something that's used on consecutive bus turns, they're actually all lined up, so you can see that this is making me my electromagnets, I think they're called, right? Yeah, magnetic coils. And as soon as I get them out, they get put on the bus here, but I'm also using them in the next build here to make my engines. So it's a convenient way of just kind of wrapping it around. And you can see that it's perfectly in line here, which is also very visually pleasing. But I'll just give you a second to kind of look at the way that this is working here. I basically do the split off, comes out, we grab what we need for the machines, we send it back, and we actually bend it around right here so that we can fit this machine right here. If I had a belt right here, I would not be able to place this, regardless of Ghost or not, because it would intersect with that belt. So I could just kind of send that back around the back, and then we get this nice bus design like this. The only thing that I will note is that for these bus taps that I use for multi-belts, what I'm actually doing, it might be a little bit hard to see here because it's prioritized. Maybe if we jump a little bit farther down the belt where something is actually being used. You can see here that it's actually going from the inner lane to the outer lane. And what I've got here is on each of these modules, I've got an input priority set to the top. So basically, the output is taken from the outer lane on the bottom here, which means that basically this outer lane is the main provider of the resources of this type. So the inner lane is more of a sacrificial lane, because basically it just exists to continuously split off as well, but then serves to supply as well. And it's prioritized on the top here to actually prioritize from the smelting array so that the distribution is a little bit more even. This is not a perfect bus tap of any kind, but it's just something that works really nicely with this, and it's very convenient to build it this way. And you can see that it's actually working quite well. There's a nice spot for power poles here if you do it this way as well. And basically, if you keep a regular pattern, then it works really well. You can just kind of pop down a chest here as well, sort of in the middle of this when you need to get a little bit of extra output. So for example, I'm now building the things that I'm considering part of my mall, basically. So I've got my sorters and my belts, etc. Yeah, and then nothing really special other than that. I really just wanted to show off the bus, but, you know, the smelting array is nothing crazy either. Basically just what you would see in something like Factorio. You've got input belt on one side, output belt on the other, and basically run as close together as possible. Copper coming from my copper mines, iron coming from my iron mine, and there's another one over here that I'm using to supply a full belt of iron that is entirely being turned into magnets. So that's what I'm working with. Well, yeah, I'm live streaming my playthrough of this on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/MrRoboticWarfare. There should be a link in the description if you want to come hang out and watch me develop this world. But for the time being, that's all I've got for you now. So thank you much.